My wife's lawyer slid the divorce papers over and told me to sign. I acted like I was reading, but I'd already swapped them with my own. When my lawyer asked him to read the terms aloud, his smile disappeared instantly. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 2 months to the moment I found the burner phone that changed everything. I thought we had the perfect marriage. 8 years together, a beautiful home in the suburbs, a business I built from scratch that was finally turning serious profit. Amanda was everything I thought I wanted. Smart, ambitious, gorgeous. We met at a corporate mixer, got married 2 years later, and honestly, I thought we were solid. Sure, the last 6 months had been weird. She started wearing expensive perfume I never bought her. Tom Ford Black Orchid, $200 a bottle. She'd come home at 11 on weeknights claiming her book club ran late. Her phone was suddenly password protected after years of lying face up on the counter. But I'm not the jealous type. I trusted her. I was the idiot who actually believed in us. The thing that should have made me suspicious was how interested she suddenly became in my business. For 8 years, Amanda never asked about revenue, contracts, or client lists. Then one Tuesday in March, she's sitting at the kitchen table asking me to explain our company structure. She wanted to know about bank accounts, assets, property deeds, which accounts had both our names, how much the business was worth. She said she was trying to be more involved, to understand my world better. She even suggested we update some paperwork to make things more official. I thought it was sweet. I'm an idiot. She started keeping a journal too, one of those leather-bound notebooks. I saw her writing in it constantly. At breakfast, before bed, sometimes mid-conversation. When I asked what she was documenting, she said it was for therapy. Processing feelings. Her therapist recommended it. Red flag number 97 that I completely missed. Then came the day that destroyed everything. Saturday morning in early April. I was looking for my gym bag and figured I'd borrow hers. I unzipped the side pocket and my fingers hit something hard. A phone. Not her iPhone. A cheap Android burner hidden under a towel. My stomach dropped. Nobody hides a second phone unless they're hiding something nuclear. I turned it on. No password. The text messages loaded. I sat on our bedroom floor and read through 3 months of conversation between my wife and her divorce attorney, a man named Richard Hoffman. The messages started professional. Legal questions. Consultation about assets. Then they got personal. Then they got sexual. Explicit descriptions of hotel rooms and what they'd done there. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the plan laid out in meticulous detail. Amanda was building a case against me. Fake abuse allegations. Emotional manipulation. Financial control. She'd been documenting false incidents in that journal for months. Creating a narrative where I was controlling, aggressive, financially abusive. None of it was true. Not a single word. But she was manufacturing evidence with dates and details. Richard was coaching her on what to say, how to act, which witnesses to prep. Her sister would testify I had anger issues. Her best friend would say Amanda seemed scared. Her coworker would claim Amanda came to work with bruises. All lies. All coordinated. They were planning to take everything. The house. The business. My retirement accounts. All of it. She'd get primary assets and I'd pay her $4,000 a month in support. Richard laid it out like he was describing a football play. And then in between legal strategy, they'd send messages about meeting at the Marriott downtown. About room 412. About how stupid I was. About how easy this was going to be. I read every single message. Took almost 3 hours. By the end, my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. I felt physically ill. This woman I'd loved for 8 years had spent months plotting to destroy me while sleeping next to me every night. I wanted to storm downstairs and confront her. But something stopped me. Maybe survival instinct. I realized she'd been planning this for months. She had a strategy. She had a lawyer. She had witnesses lined up. If I reacted emotionally, I'd lose everything. So I took screenshots of everything. Every text message. Every photo. Every detail of their plan. Uploaded everything to a secure cloud account Amanda didn't know existed. Put the phone back exactly where I found it. That night, Amanda came home and kissed me like nothing was wrong. Made dinner. Laughed at TV. Curled up next to me on the couch. I wanted to scream. But I smiled. Kissed her goodnight. Went to bed. Because if she could act, so could I. Monday morning, I called a lawyer. Janet Kellerman. The lawyer you hire when you absolutely need to win. The lawyer other lawyers are afraid of. I met her at her office that afternoon. Brought printed copies of every screenshot. Janet spent an hour reading through everything without saying a word. Finally, she looked up at me. Her eyes were cold. Calculating. She said one sentence. We can flip this entire thing on them. Her plan was beautiful. We'd create our own divorce papers, nearly identical to what Richard was preparing. Same format, same legal language. Someone would have to compare them side by side to notice differences. Except the terms would be completely reversed. I'd get the house. I'd get the business. I'd get everything. Amanda would pay me support. And here's the genius part. Buried deep in the document would be a full written confession. A paragraph where Amanda admits to fabricating evidence, falsifying documents, committing fraud, and engaging in an affair with her attorney. All in dense legal terminology that would look standard unless you read carefully. Janet explained that if we could get them to sign without reading word for word, we'd have everything. Signed, dated, legally binding. But it would only work if I played my part perfectly. For 2 months, I had to pretend I was falling apart. Act like the broken, defeated husband they expected. So that's exactly what I did. I stopped arguing. Stopped asking questions. Started sleeping on the couch. Stopped initiating conversations. Let dishes pile up. Wore the same clothes 2 days in a row. Let my beard grow out. Amanda started smiling more. Humming while making coffee. Texting constantly without hiding it anymore. She started looking at apartments online. Leaving browser tabs open like she wanted me to see. Making calls to interior designers. She thought she'd already won. And honestly, watching her celebrate before it happened made what came next so much sweeter. Last week, Richard's office called. Scheduled the meeting. I walked into that conference room yesterday morning. Amanda looked triumphant. Richard looked smug. They had no idea what was coming. The conference room was generic corporate. Long table, uncomfortable chairs, windows overlooking the parking lot. Richard sat at the head like he owned the place. Amanda next to him in a black dress I'd never seen. Probably bought it with our joint credit card for this victory moment. Janet sat beside me, briefcase positioned perfectly. She looked bored, like this was just another Tuesday. Richard started with fake sympathy. Said something about how difficult this must be, how we were all adults, how he hoped we could keep things civil. That practiced gentle tone lawyers use. I nodded, played my part, looked down at my hands like I was defeated. Amanda wouldn't make eye contact. She kept glancing at Richard. Little smiles. Secret looks. Inside jokes. Made my skin crawl knowing what they'd done while planning to destroy me. Richard slid a thick stack of papers across the table. 40 pages. He'd organized everything with colored tabs. Yellow for initial, pink for signature, blue for date. Real professional. He walked me through it like I was a child. Explained Amanda would retain the house since she'd contributed to mortgage payments. The business would be split 60-40 in her favor since she provided emotional support during the building years. Emotional support. I almost laughed. He mentioned retirement accounts, investment portfolio, both cars, joint savings. Everything divided to leave me with basically nothing. Maybe 30%. Then the monthly support payments. For $1,000. Every month. For 3 years. To help Amanda maintain her lifestyle while she figured things out. $144,000 total. Plus whatever I'd lose in assets. I watched him talk. This man had slept with my wife dozens of times while drafting documents to financially ruin me. When he finished, he pushed an expensive pen across the table. Mont Blanc. Probably $300. Janet didn't move. Let the silence stretch. Let it get uncomfortable. Let Richard shift in his seat. Then she spoke for the first time. Professional. Neutral. She said we'd be happy to proceed. But first, she had one small request. She asked Richard if he wouldn't mind reading the complete terms aloud before we submitted anything. Just to make certain everyone understood. For the record. Richard's smile flickered. Confusion crossed his face. He looked at Amanda. She shrugged. Clearly thought this was just formality. They'd won. Why not humor it? Richard picked up the papers. Started reading. And I watched his face change in real time. Color drained. Eyes went wide. Hands started shaking. The papers rattled. Because these weren't his papers. These were ours. First section was about the house. Primary residence located at 842 Meadowbrook Drive shall be retained in full by the husband with no claims from the wife. Amanda's head snapped up like she'd been slapped. She looked at Richard. At the papers. At me. Mouth open but no sound. Richard kept reading. Voice getting quieter. Business assets including Davidson Consulting LLC and all associated accounts shall remain sole property of the husband. Vehicle ownership including the 2022 Audi Q7 and 2021 Tesla Model S shall transfer completely to the husband. Amanda grabbed the papers from his hands. Started flipping frantically. Fingers trembling. Face pure shock turning to panic. She kept saying this was wrong. This wasn't right. What the hell was happening? Richard was frozen. staring at documents like they were in a foreign language. Then Janet spoke again, calm as ever. She mentioned there was one more section Richard hadn't finished. Page 17. The declaration statement. She suggested he review that part carefully. Richard's hands were visibly shaking now. He turned to page 17. I watched his eyes scan. Watched the exact moment he realized what he was looking at. He looked at me. Really looked at me. And I could see him understanding he'd lost. He started reading. Voice barely a whisper. I, Amanda Davidson, do hereby acknowledge and confess that I have engaged in fraudulent activities including fabrication of evidence, falsification of journal entries, perjury and sworn statements, conspiracy to commit fraud, and an extramarital affair with my legal representative Richard Hoffman, and I accept full responsibility for these actions. Complete silence. You could hear the air conditioning. A phone ringing down the hall. Amanda's mouth was open. No sound. Just breathing heavily. Richard dropped the papers. Hands trembling. Sweat on his forehead. Janet pulled out a folder from her briefcase. Laid out printed screenshots. Text messages between Amanda and Richard. Their plan. Sexual messages. Hotel receipts. Credit card statements. Everything organized with tabs and highlights. She explained these were copies. That originals had been filed with the State Bar Association 2 weeks ago. That an ethics investigation was opened. That Richard's firm had been notified that morning. That the district attorney's office received a full package yesterday. Richard stood up so fast his chair fell over. Started yelling. Voice cracking. Said this was entrapment. The documents were invalid. He never agreed to this. His firm would destroy us. Janet didn't blink. Didn't raise her voice. Calmly pointed out he'd read the terms aloud of his own free will. That Amanda had reviewed the documents. That both had ample opportunity to object. That no one forced anything. She noted the recording device on the table had captured everything. Completely legal in our state. One-party consent. Amanda turned on Richard like a snake. Started screaming this was his fault. That he promised this would work. That he said it was foolproof. That he was the expert. That she trusted him. That he ruined everything. Richard screamed back. Said she wanted to fake abuse allegations. That she initiated the affair. That she came to him. That this was her idea. That he was just helping a client. They went at each other like animals. All that partnership dissolved in 30 seconds. All the planning and secret smiles gone. Just two people trying to save themselves by destroying each other. Janet let them fight. Let them scream. Let them confess to everything while the recorder captured it all. Security eventually came. Two guys in uniform asking if they needed to call police. Richard was pacing, pulling at his hair, loosening his tie. Amanda was crying, mascara running down her face in black streams. She kept trying to talk to me, reaching across the table, saying we could fix this. She made a mistake. She never meant for this to happen. She still loved me. We could go to counseling. I didn't say a word. Just packed up my documents. Followed Janet out. Left them there to deal with consequences. In the parking lot, Janet turned to me. Professional mask dropped for a second. Almost smiled. Said the next few months would be intense. That Amanda would try to make a deal with prosecutors. That Richard's career was over. That I should prepare for them to come after me any way they could. But she also said I'd won. Completely. That this was one of the most satisfying cases she'd handled in 20 years. We got in our separate cars. I sat there for a minute. Engine running. Hands on the wheel. For 2 months, I'd been pretending to fall apart. Playing the victim. Acting defeated. And now it was over. I'd watched two people destroy themselves. Watched their scheme collapse in real time. Watched them turn on each other the second things went wrong. I drove to the apartment I'd rented 3 weeks earlier. The place Janet suggested I secure. 1 bedroom downtown. I walked inside. Closed the door. Sat on the couch. And for the first time in 2 months, I smiled. Because they'd had me. They'd almost won. Until they didn't. The fallout started slowly, then accelerated like a landslide. Janet called 2 weeks after the meeting. Richard's law firm had terminated him. Partnership dissolved. Name scraped off the letterhead. They'd issued a public statement about maintaining integrity and zero tolerance for ethical violations. The legal community is small. Within days, every lawyer in town knew what Richard had done. The State Bar Association suspended his license immediately. Janet explained that with our evidence, Richard was looking at permanent disbarment. His entire career gone. 23 years of law school and climbing ranks, destroyed in 1 meeting. He'd never practiced law again. Amanda's situation was worse. Turns out fabricating evidence and planning perjury are actual crimes. Felonies with jail time. The district attorney got involved 3 weeks later. They filed formal charges 2 months after that. 3 counts. Fraud in the first degree. conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted perjury. Amanda hired a criminal defense attorney, Marcus Webb, cost $75,000 for the retainer. Her parents took out a second mortgage to pay for it. He reached out to Janet trying to negotiate. But here's the thing about consequences. You can't undo them once they're in motion. The prosecutor was Sarah Chun. Janet knew her, said she was tough, didn't like people who abused the legal system. Sarah was pushing hard because this wasn't just messy divorce. This was calculated, premeditated, documented in months of text messages. The prosecutor offered Amanda a deal 4 months after charges were filed. Plead guilty to reduced charges. Accept probation. Pay full restitution. Agree to a permanent criminal record. The alternative was public trial, where every text would be read aloud, where Richard would likely testify against her, where her parents and friends would hear exactly what she'd planned, where local news might cover it. She took the deal, signed it on a Thursday morning. Janet said Amanda looked like she'd aged 10 years. 3 years probation with strict conditions. $75,000 in restitution paid to me in installments. $3,500 monthly support payments for 2 years. Community service, mandatory counseling, and the criminal record, permanent. That destroyed her professionally. Amanda worked in corporate HR. Background checks are standard. She got fired 3 weeks after the guilty plea. Her company cited ethical violations and breach of trust. How can you work in human resources with a fraud conviction? She applied to 17 firms. All rejected her. Nobody wants an HR manager with a criminal record for fraud and perjury. Her parents remortgaged their house to cover legal fees and help with restitution. Her dad stopped speaking to her for months. Her mom cried through the plea hearing. Their retirement destroyed. Amanda moved back in with them. 34 years old. No job. No husband. No apartment. No reputation. Living in her childhood bedroom. The social fallout was brutal. Our friend group fractured. Most people sided with me once they saw the evidence. Some wanted nothing to do with the drama and disappeared. Nobody wanted to be associated with that betrayal. Her best friend Melissa blocked her number. Posted on Facebook about how she couldn't associate with someone who'd fabricate abuse allegations. Said it made real victims look bad. That Amanda crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Her book club uninvited her. Her gym friends stopped responding. Even her sister barely spoke to her. Amanda ended up at a call center. Customer service for an insurance company. $9 an hour. 40 hours a week getting yelled at by angry customers. It was all she could find with her record. The business actually grew after everything settled. Turns out when you're not being sabotaged, things run smoother. I landed 3 major contracts within 4 months. Hired 2 employees. Started working with a business consultant. Revenue increased 40%. I sold the house 6 months after divorce was finalized. Couldn't live there anymore. Too many memories. Too many nights wondering if she was texting Richard. I bought a modern apartment downtown. 15th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. View of the city. Completely different energy. New furniture. New everything. Therapy helped more than expected. Janet recommended someone. Dr. Rebecca Morgan. A psychologist specializing in betrayal trauma. I didn't think I needed it at first. Thought I was handling everything fine. But 2 months later, I had a panic attack in a grocery store. Completely fell apart in the cereal aisle. Couldn't breathe. Thought I was having a heart attack. Dr. Morgan explained that adrenaline had carried me through the crisis. Now that danger was over, my brain was processing what actually happened. The betrayal, the manipulation, the months of lies, the fact that someone I loved had tried to destroy me while kissing me goodnight. We worked through it over 6 months of weekly sessions. Talked about trust, about recognizing red flags, about how to eventually date again without suspecting everyone. It took 8 months before I felt normal. Before I could think about Amanda without my chest tightening. Before I could trust my own judgment. About 14 months after everything collapsed, I ran into Richard. Complete accident. Coffee shop downtown on Saturday morning. He was 3 people ahead in line. Didn't notice me at first. He'd lost significant weight. Looked older. Wore jeans and a wrinkled shirt instead of his usual tailored suits. Hair longer. Hadn't been cut in months. He saw me when he turned with his coffee. Went visibly pale. Tried to leave without eye contact. But the line was packed. He couldn't get out without walking past me. We made eye contact. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Said nothing. What could he say? I didn't speak either. Just watched him shuffle past. Shoulders hunched. Defeated. Broken. Exactly what he'd planned for me. I ordered my coffee. Sat by the window. Watched him walk to a beat-up Honda Civic. Faded paint. Dent in the bumper. Same guy who used to drive a BMW 7 Series. Who vacationed in Cabo twice a year. who bragged about his corner office and billable hours. Now he looked like someone barely holding on, probably doing document review from home, contract work, anything to pay bills. And I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just nothing. He was a stranger who'd tried to hurt me and failed. Janet called last month with an update. Amanda filed a motion requesting modification to her support payments. She was struggling to make the monthly $3,500 call center job barely covered her car payment. Still living with her parents. Still unable to find anything in her field. Her lawyer argued hardship. Said she was genuinely trying to rebuild. That payments were preventing her from moving forward. The judge denied the request. Said she'd agreed to the terms. That she'd signed a binding agreement. That consequences of fraud don't get reduced because they're inconvenient. That maybe she should have considered financial hardship before committing crimes. I could have agreed to lower payments. Could have shown mercy, but I didn't. Because mercy is for people who make mistakes. Amanda didn't make a mistake. She made hundreds of choices over 6 months. Every text to Richard, every fake journal entry, every lie, every hotel room, every witness she tried to coach. Those were choices. Deliberate decisions. And choices have consequences. My life now is genuinely better than it was. Better than if I'd stayed blind to what she was doing. I run my business. See Dr. Morgan every other week. Hit the gym 4 times a week. Travel more. Took a trip to Colorado last month. I date casually. Nothing serious yet. Not ready. But I'm getting there. Learning to trust again slowly. Sometimes people ask if I regret how it went down. Friends. My brother. Even Dr. Morgan asked once. If I wish I'd handled it differently. If maybe I'd been too harsh. If I could have just divorced her normally without destroying her life. And I tell them the truth. They had me. They had everything planned. Timeline. Strategy. Witnesses. False allegations. They were going to take my house, my business, my reputation, my future. They were going to bankrupt me. They were going to make me the villain in a story they fabricated. They were going to send me to court defending myself against fake abuse allegations. They were going to win. Until they didn't. And honestly, I sleep just fine knowing that. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments. Drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories.